It's really cold in Delhi, and it was really foggy. So although the time is at 10, but they are just taking a
Yes.
little time to come here.
Yeah,
No,
And
no
participants,
problem. No
they
problem.
yeah.
No problem. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start formally, finally. Uh, I think it took 6 months altogether, the entire planning, starting from drafting the proposal and everything. That was the time when I wasn't sure that I will travel, but finally, uh, it's online. It's really unfortunate for me actually. I really wish to be there in person, and it was really my dream to be there in three of us when we started the journey. I welcome you all on behalf of KAICID Alumni Network Meeting Chapter Indian International Conference on Countering Hate Speech through IRD-ICD and Education. This is a hybrid program, and our venue is Maple Room, India Habitat Center, Lodhi Road, New Delhi, also with the online platform. I would like to take the advantage to lead KAICID and the opportunity sharing about the KAICID's work. KAICID is a unique intergovernmental organization through the dual governance structure, a council of parties made of the states and the board of directors made up the religious leaders. And they bring together followers of different religious traditions, religious leaders, and policymakers. With the advisory board of 60 religious leaders from world's major faith and cultural traditions, they are being united together with the making of connections and network with the communities from all over the world. The member states, their member states are Republic of Austria, Kingdom of Spain, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the Holy See as the founding observers. And the board of directors stand as the guarantors of the independence of the program from the interest of any one countries and any one religious domination with the belief of equality and equilibrium. With the shared uh, problems and the common solutions they are trying to find by the religious leaders, policymakers, and experts in the field of dialogue. With the appropriate theme for today's particular conference, we are being together here in a hybrid mode. Hate speech is on the rise worldwide, with the potential to incite violence, undermine social cohesion and tolerance, the cause of psychological, emotional, and physical harm based on xenophobia, racism, antisemitism, and anti Muslim hatred, and other forms of intolerance and discrimination. According to United Nations 2020, history has shown us that genocide and other atrocity crimes begin with words, how you are using your words. There is a collective responsibility to address hate speech in the present day to prevent further violence in the future. In this context, education can play a fundamental vital role into the addressing both online and offline and helping to counter the emergence of group targeted violence, strengthening educational responses to build the resilience of learners to the exclusionary rhetoric and hate speech also lies in the core of education, the 2030 agenda, and more specifically, target 4.7 of Sustainable Developmental Goal 4, SDG 4, which touches on the social and moral as well as humanistic purposes of education. So, for today's particular session online, we will have our three speakers. Myself, Dr. Swati Chakraborty. Currently, I'm based in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I'm also the fellow for the Universitat Islam International Indonesia. Also, I'm a visiting faculty for Jewel University, India. I would like to speak on social media. Social media platform is actually creating the breeding ground for hate speech due to their anonymity, accessibility, and the fact that they can reach a large audience quickly. Hate speech can take in a many forms, including but not limited to race-based hate, gender-based hate, religious hate, and more. The impact of hate speech on social media can be significant. So, to combat hate speech on social media, it is very important to educate the young generation as well as educators. And the education institutions are playing a vital role in terms of gathering the knowledge and create the digital literacy for the students as well as the young generations. In addition, social platforms are also being using their platforms to promote positive messages to highlight the harm and hate speech that can causes harming to the next generation, because who are very young age, they are getting usually motivated with the hate words and hate speech very easily, very quickly. So it is the duty of the educators as well as for the parents who are the first teacher for that particular group of young generation, so they can actually able to mitigate that particular hate speech and the warm words. So rather than using the warm words or hate speech, we can motivate with them with the positive words, nurturing them from their childhood days to have motivation to do something very correctly with the assertiveness. So, in that way, what we can do, starting with a setting the tone, first of all. Use your social media accounts to promote respectful and inclusive dialogue. This can help to create a positive and welcoming environment for others to join in. Encourage others to do the same. So whenever you are sharing a positive note, you are also try to do more and more sharing the positive note to others to encourage others so they can also replicate the same. Report about hate speech. That is very important. Whenever you are going to have that very sense of that this is a very content which is containing hate speech or any words, always try to report that very quickly and constantly. Use your influence. That is very important. Nowadays people are influencer in social media, different types of platforms are available, so it is a responsibility to use your influence and create the positivity. Educate yourself, stay informed about the day-to-day activity, whatever is going around the world. So world news and information you need to be very much updated into, and in that we can create a positivity as an educator, as a educationist in the field, whatever field you are doing. Finally, you are educator, so engage in respectful dialogue. Dialogue is not a one way theme. It is a duality. So it has the dialogue with the engaging and exchange your ideas, discussions with ideas with respectful way and with a perspective that is the peace, harmony, and being together with this cohesion and in a cooperative journey. Ultimately, this is a final destination to reach finally into a positive world that we are expecting. So, here I would like to stop myself by introducing our other respected uh, speaker for today's online session. I would like to have the chance to introduce our very, very esteemed guest for today, Father Jose Nandikara. He is a professor of philosophy at Dharmaram Vidya Kshetram, Bangalore, and serves as the editor-in-chief of International Quarterly Journal of Dharma, the regional director for globeethics.net India. And he is our esteemed KFN Fellow for the year 2016. I welcome Father Jose, and I would like to give you the floor for discussions on a very important topic, because he is very, very famous in the field of philosophical anthropology, ethics, intercultural, interreligious dialogue. He has authored a book, edited 6 volumes, and contributed over 70 research articles in journals and edited volumes. I would like to give the floor Father. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste. Dear fellows, sisters, and brothers, I hope I'm visible and my slide is also visible to you.
Yes, Father.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swati, for the kind introduction, and more importantly, for the introduction to our conference today on hate speech, and drawing from your experience and expertise, focusing on the social media and what it is and what we can do. Following the same line, let me suggest a culture of dialogue and fellowship as an antidote to hate speech. As I'm introduced by profession, I'm a philosophy teacher, philosophy student, and we speak more in general and more fundamental realities rather than on specific action plan. The vision, the darshan that we should be carrying to develop a culture of dialogue and fellowship. I take this motto, faith seeking the harmony of life. This is a modification of a medieval dictum, fides quaerens intellectum, faith seeking understanding. In our present context, with regard to hate speech and modern contemporary society, we need to develop harmony of life. Let me draw your attention to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The very first article, which we are all familiar, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. However, often we do not look at the second part of that very first article of human rights. They are endowed human beings with reason and conscience. We have a reflective intelligence and a conscience, a moral law within us. And therefore, we should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Of course, that involves sisterhood or our tradition of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a global village as common home. We are sisters and brothers living in one home where there is free speech but not hate speech. Of course, that's an utopia, but we are all striving through dialogue to develop this global village and common home. In this common home, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this Universal Declaration of Human Rights without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. That is safeguarding against discrimination. Every form of discrimination is denied, restricted by the second right. Now, let me draw your attention to the 19. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. And this is very much highlighted by the United States First Amendment. That's why there cannot be any law that's against this freedom of opinion and expression, the free speech. And as Dr. Swati now shown, with the social media, this freedom of speech used, overused, and often abused. Article 19.1 of the Constitution of India states that all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. So both the Universal Declaration and the Indian Constitution number 19 expresses and proclaims the freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of opinion, free speech, and expression are indeed the cornerstones of human rights and pillars of free and democratic societies. These freedoms support other fundamental rights, such as to peaceful assembly, to participate in public affairs, and to freedom of religion. However, there is a collision of interest between free speech and hate speech. Freedom of opinion and expression are part of the human rights, which is also given in the Article 19 of Indian Constitution. Hate speech, as Dr. Swati explained, refers to the offensive use of language that incites discrimination, hostility, or violence, targeting an individual or a group based on inherent characteristics like gender, color, physical appearance, disabilities, ethnicity, nationality, religion. It violates the fundamental human right of individual dignity and social peace. Let me draw your attention for a minute to the linguistic turn in the 20th century in philosophy and in culture. Often we know we are Homo sapiens, thinking being with a reason and freedom. And we generally consider first we have a mental language, then we have the thoughts are expressed in language. Yet today, we would see that we understand that Homo sapiens and Homo loquens means speaking being. Language is constitutive of being human. And more importantly, for our present discussion on free speech and hate speech, the language we are exposed to influences the language we use, the language we think in, and the language that constructs our reality, our world. Language is not merely an instrument for describing events, but a constituent part of our forms of life. The language determines who we are. In language, we live, move, and have our being. It is not neutral. It reflects the structure and structures our ideologies and worldviews. We respond to the images and languages that surround us. Therefore, hate speech is not limited to the targeted individuals and groups alone. It directly or indirectly affects all of us, the culture and fabric of the society in which we live. Dr. Swati has already drawn our attention to hate speech. Now, therefore, the hate speech is reachable to every part of the society without any borders. As the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, social media provides a global megaphone for hate. Free speech becomes mostly hate speech. Therefore, we think about restrictions on free speech. Except United States of America, in most democratic countries, there are restrictions on free speech. Since the freedom of speech and expression is not an absolute right, the government is given powers to frame laws for and against it. Article 19.2 deals with the restrictions that are imposed on the freedom of speech and expression for the security of the state, friendly relations between foreign countries, public order, contempt of court, incitement of an offense, sovereignty and integrity of India, defamation, and these are all reasonable restrictions on the free speech. Yes, there is a problem. The government and those who are in authority would stifle all free speech. Especially, they are taking away the right to dissent. Yet, there is no space in a democracy for hate speech. There is speech, there is free speech, and the right to information and the right to dissent. So what often they do, they ban different forms of hate speech. because hate speech denies human beings the right to dignity and strikes at the foundational values of equality, liberty, and fraternity. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 20, requires a ban on hate speech. In their words, any advocacy of national, racial, or religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility, or violence shall be prohibited by law. In practice, the law standing between the regulation and restriction, forming a thin line between free speech and hate speech. India has number of laws. Section from the Indian Penal Code, Section 124A penalizes sedition, 153A penalizes the promotion of enmity between different groups on grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc., and doing acts prejudicial to the maintenance of harmony. 153B penalizes imputations and assertions prejudicial to the national integration. 295A penalizes deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage the religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious belief. Section 298 penalizes uttering words, etc., with a deliberate intent to wound the religious feelings of any person. The Representation of the People Act 1951, Section 123 and Section 125 prohibits promotion of enmity on grounds of religion, race, caste, community, or language in connection with election as a corrupt electoral practice and prohibits it. That this list is not exhaustive, and I'm not a legal expert. Just to show that we have number of laws, but the hate speech and hate crimes are increasing. And we have the NGOs and the social media have their own ways of curbing them. YouTube, any video which violates someone's image in respect of age, gender, nationality, disability, ethnicity, race, religion, and based on the content of someone else will be removed from the YouTube on the grounds of promoting hatred. Similarly, Facebook, if any content which spread hatred and the intention behind it is unclear, the content will be removed. Similarly, there are self-governing rules and national and international laws curbing the social media as well. Yet, the hate speech is increasing. What can we do? When responding to hate speech, the state should not limit themselves to sanctioning, but address the underlying causes that drive hate speech, such as prejudice, intolerance, and lack of information. For every online or print hate speech, there is a system. There is someone who is wounded, having pain as well as hatred. Addressing hate speech does not mean limiting or prohibiting freedom of speech. It means keeping hate speech from escalating into something more dangerous, particularly incitement to discrimination, hostility, and violence, which is prohibited under international law. We need to use positive measures to promote a culture of inclusive and intercultural and interreligious dialogue, upholding liberty, equality, and fraternity. For KFN and many of us involved in other NGOs, religious leaders, educators, we need to use the positive measures to promote a culture of inclusive and intercultural, interreligious dialogue, upholding liberty, equality, and fraternity. One is, other than the court, think about alternative dispute resolutions. And our educational institutions, NGOs, and the KIC could mediate. Alternative dispute resolution proposes a paradigm shift in the way the legal system administers justice. It shifts the focus from court-centered formal legal proceedings to the settlement of the dispute between parties by way of negotiation, mediation, arbitration, and or conciliation. In many states and many countries, this is much more promoted rather than settlement in the court. The ideal of providing restorative justice to the victims of crime by offering a chance of victim offender reconciliation and beginning the process of healing for the victim and expiation for the offender. Secondly, we need to promote counter speech. Dr. Swati referred to it, how to promote the positive speech, the free speech in our social media. A positive response to the hate speech is counter speech, to see things from other perspectives. The power of counter speech lies in the fact that if employed in the proper manner, it tackles abusive, hateful, and extremist content and lays bare hate, disease, abuse, and stereotypes, and more importantly, and gives clarification, promoting counter narratives, counter values. This I consider is very important for all of us to provide counter narratives, to provide counter values. The proponent of counter speech can be anyone, even the victim himself or herself. The victim may choose to respond to the hateful content in a positive manner and create an atmosphere of dialogue with the perpetrator rather than indulge in free-flying counter accusations at each other. We can remember Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Eye for an eye," leaves within a short time everyone blind. Or the advice of Jesus Christ, who said, "Forgive 770 times, love your enemies." As I said, the first Universal Declaration of Human Rights gives each individual equal in dignity and rights. And I want to underline, that's why I'm repeating, they are endowed with reason and conscience, every human individual, and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. Dear fellows, sisters, and brothers, without fraternity, equality, and liberty will not survive. The political discourse speaks about liberty, and there is an overemphasis on liberty, rightly so. However, we will not have sustainable liberty without fraternity, without fellowship, without a solidarity. These are the noble ideals of our country. The preamble of our constitution says, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, assuming the dignity of the individual and the unity and the integrity of the nation." This is possible with the noble ideals of our great nation, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Satyameva Jayade, Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. Yet we should also acknowledge the fact that these ideals and the reality, the gap is increasing. We are far from creating a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam even for India. And Satyameva Jayante, but India ranks in transparency very low. We are one of the more corrupt countries. Ahimsa Paramo Dharma yet we have the fourth largest military in the world. What can we do? Education, as Dr. Swati underlined, as every reasonable person would underline. Formal and informal education to build a culture of dialogue and fraternity. I'm sure you know this document from the UNESCO on the treasure within, the four pillars of education: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, learning to be. Our education, however, focuses these days on learning to know, to have information. And our degrees are based on how much we know, which is important but not sufficient. And we need skills, learning to do. And there is always the industry mourns the gap between the skills and the needs, or the industry and the academy, as if the university's role is only to build or encourage and provide workers for the industry and the multinationals. No, learning to know is learning to learn. Learning to do is to have certain competence. Having these days, education is for employment, employment is for money. That will not satisfy, that will not provide a sustainable society. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. The third one is very important: learning to live together in harmony. This dialogue, and to curb hate speech, to increase the free positive speech, we must learn to live together. We are in a pluralistic world. We are in a pluralistic society. We are in a pluralistic village we live. And thereby we should learn to be. So, as educationists, let us pay attention to all the four pillars and make sure they are roofed by an ethical component. Training, teaching our students to choose the greater good by being exemplary models, by choosing greater good in our own lives. I suggest, as KaiSeed and Indian KaiSeed Fellows Network, we can serve as a forum for the exchange of ideas and experiences regarding approaches and methods to the problems related to the noblest quest of humanity, to have societies with liberty, equality, and fraternity. We could emphasize the need for mutual understanding and dialogue between different cultural and religious traditions, like the conference that we are doing today. And we could, through a participative approach to the study of culture and religion, we could see and show the uniqueness of each culture and religion with family resemblance. Dear fellows and friends, the bonds that bind us together are much more stronger than the boundaries that separate us. Let me repeat. In our cultures and religions, the bonds that bind us together are far more stronger than the boundaries that separate us. There are more similarities among cultures and religions, but we should equally pay attention to the differences as well. The key word coming from Ludwig Wittgenstein is family resemblance, Familienähnlichkeit. This is a program which I was involved for last 20 years, and I suggest to the fellows and for Indian KFN as a program. FIRE, promote fellowship in religious experience, as an acronym. This is part of the Center for Study of World Religions, which I was secretary and director for a long time in two different occasions. It is a fellowship experience. Increase religious literacy by scholarly sharing on different religious traditions. Then visit important places of different traditions, share in the religious and social life of believers, monks, and nuns. Listen to them. What does it mean to them being a Christian, being a Hindu, being an activist? Listen to them. What does it mean to them? What motivates them? And then share meals, observe rituals, and participate in festivals of these religious and cultural centers. Recently, I found that family visits are amazingly good to break the boundaries and barriers and to bring greater harmony and fellowship. I found more than the commonplaces, the families. When I took my students to Muslim home, Hindu home, Jain home, and Buddhist, they learned more than taking them to public places of mosques, temples, and uh, cultural and meditation centers. I'm not saying either or, but both and. Let's create fellowship in religious experience. Religion is like fire, it can create havoc, but it can create wonderful energy, a warmth which is necessary for our lives. Just want to show you, some of you have seen where I live. The chapel is in a dome structure where we have the symbols of all world religions on the main altar, which respecting the values, the truth, justice, holiness in all the traditions. And on the right panel, we have Jesus Christ offering all the efforts of humanities, starting with that wheel, book, agriculture, musical instrument, painting, all rocket, and all that we have made, all the six people together offering to the God. And this also, Jesus is presented as the Sanatana Guru sitting under the Bodhi tree. There are also symbols particular to Catholic tradition, which is that the grapes, the wine, and the bread, which we use for celebrating Holy Eucharist, and the light, bringing light to the darkness. And I consider that bringing light to the darkness and bringing that fire, fellowship in religious experience, as our noble duty and privilege. Thank you very much for the time given and your patient listening.
It's like a journey that we have traveling through your talk. Thank you so much, Father Jose, for your wonderful presentation. And here I would like to give the mic to Ms. Kenu Agarwal for your observation. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Dr. Kanchan will take over, and she'll will actually like to introduce you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Kanchan
Thank
takes
you.
over.
Yes.
Yeah, very good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, Father Jose. I think, rightly said by Swati, it was a very divine journey which you have took us all through. So, thank you so much, Father Jose, once again. And now I formally wanted to welcome each one of us who is present here. And the Kaiser fraternity joins me in expressing our appreciation and delight at your honorable attendance. The gracious presence of Professor Farida Khanamji, she has been she has honored us by reaching on time and blessing us. Thank you so much, ma'am. And the rest of the guests, please be with us and encourage us in leading this event. So now I would like to introduce the one who is our partner and our co-coordinator who's holding the mic since 9 in the morning. It's quite late at the place where she is residing. She is a very small child to take care of, but she has been a very diligent professional. Swati Chakravarti, she is an assistant professor at the Institute of Legal Studies, Research, GLA University. She is also an assistant professor of human rights and women studies in Team Lease EdTech formerly known as School Guru EduServe Private Limited. Dr. Chakrabarti is a writing fellow at Compose Universitas Islam International Indonesia. She is an international fellow of KAISED in Lisbon, Portugal. She has done her PhD in human rights from the University of Calcutta with the thesis on right to education, a study on tribal women of rural West Bengal. She was attached to National Human Rights Commission, India, as a research consultant. She is the founder of web platform for dialogue, which has been doing tremendous and absolutely commendable job since 2 3 years, and corona period में तो उसने कमाल ही किया. So she's also had taken care of the series of webinars, talks, and publications. Dr. Chakrabarti had good teaching expertise as lecturer at the English College School of Management, Calicut, Kerala. Her special lectures are on human values and ethics to management studies and dignity and rights. She is also a member of the Executive Council at the National Center for Inclusive Growth and Development Research, Mysore, member of Review Committee of Rajarajeshwari Journal of Psychology and Educational Research. Also, she is the editor of books like Dynamics of Dialogue, Culture Development, and Peace in the Metaverse, Handbook of Dialogue and Development, India, China, Europe, Handbook of Human Rights and Tribal Studies, Handbook of Social Media for Digital and Social Inclusion, Tribal Development, Gender Identity and Roles in India, Issues and Challenges. Another book, Multidisciplinary Handbook of Social Exclusion and Human Rights, and Handbook of International Relations, Issues of Human Rights and Foreign Policy, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Dr. Chakrabarti has a wide range of international connections with her network through different seminar, conferences, and workshops. And there's much more to the list, which I would be cutting down because of the paucity of the time. And I'm sure Swati is going to forgive me for this. And now we have our distinguished guest, Farida Khanam ji. और मैं उनके इतने बड़े करियर के बारे में तो क्या बात करने की हैसियत रखती हूँ, but I'll talk a little bit about her. Professor Farida Khanam ji is a multifaceted Islamic scholar, a well-known speaker, writer, and translator based in New Delhi. She is also the chairperson of Center for Peace and Spirituality International, an organization founded by her father and world-renowned Islamic scholar Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab. She is a retired professor of Islamic studies from Jamia Millia Islamia, where she taught Sufism as well as other major world religions. For the past 2.5 decades, she has been writing books and has authored 12 books as well as translated more than 100 books of Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab from Urdu to English. She has also edited the English Quran translation and its commentary by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab ji. To undertake research in the field of Islam and modernism, she has also established Islam and Peace Project under her guidance. She is presently engaged in many global initiatives of CPS International in the areas of peace, interfaith harmony, spirituality, and forming a women groups and inspire them to play a pivotal role in nurturing of human values in global civil society. And there's so much more to her character and her personality. So I would like to request Kenuji to please present Professor Farida Khanam ji a token of appreciation and honor from all of us on behalf of KAISED and KFN Network Indian Chapter. So after this formal welcome and felicitation session, I would like to hand over the mic to Dr. Swati. So you can continue with your online session, Dr. Swati.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kanchan, for the opportunity. And it's my wish to meet Dr. Farida Khanamji in person. But it's my gratitude and namaste. आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. आप आए और हमारे सेमिनार को चार चांद लगा दिया. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And continuing to the online session, I'm really privileged to have with us Swami Atmadas Yamiji. He is also a esteemed fellow from KFN. He's a tremendous, fascinating figure in terms of his work in the field of multi-religious priest. The first time I have ever heard this word, and I'm really, really overwhelmed and connected with him, with his wonderful work in the field of the multidisciplinary section of the community and the work he's been working with. Particularly his work I'm connected with during the COVID-19, his fascinating work on the person who have been affected by COVID and their work. So Swami Atmadas Yamiji is a multi-religious priest and monk following the humanistic and eclectic version of the Indian religion that is really wonderful. As an humanist, he acknowledges and follows the good and useful port of all religions, and an eclectic, he selects doctrines, philosophy, rites, and rituals from various schools of thoughts, sects, and religions. So I hand over the session with a wonderful welcome to this particular online session. And I hope that this session would be something which we are expecting to have from his talk. I welcome and hand over the mic to Swami Yatmadas ji.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for such a wonderful opportunity. Hope everyone can hear me. Yes, thank you. So my commitment today is to discuss the one of the psychodynamic tools, that is transactional analysis, which is shortly known as TA, in connection with hate speech. How to have a wonderful solution for hate speech or religious dynamism. How can we come with a wonderful dynamism? That's my subject today. So I know that this is not a new topic to many of you, because transaction analysis is widely studied and used by many of the sessions of the society, especially those who are into religious harmony, in the religious dialogues, etc. But one thing I would love to point out in the beginning is about the subject of psychology and the importance of studying psychology for interreligious dialogues and cultural dialogues, etc. Because one of the most neglected science or most neglected subject in the whole universe or a whole globe is psychology. Because why I say this? Because there is no it's only one subject which is not well placed either under the art stream or under the science stream. We know that in every university, biology is only a science. It cannot be an art subject anymore. Or it was never an art subject. Biology is always, or medicine will be always, a science subject. But when it comes to psychology, there, even in India, even in my small place where I live in Kerala, there are 3 or 4 universities giving psychology courses. In some of them, it is treated as a BA stream, that is a Bachelor of Arts subject, a Master of Arts subject. In some other places, it is treated as a Master of Science, Bachelor of Science subject. So this is not a problem to my place or to India, but it is different in every part of the world where psychology is not classified. They are not sure whether it is a science or whether it is an art subject. The point I am trying to make is I think psychology is the most important science in the world because it's all from the human dynamism. The whole thing got the evolution itself started from the human mind evolution or the mind dynamism. You see, in the Semitic religion, there is a belief that God created Adam and Eve, and they went into disobedience, which started the whole thing in the world. That's what they believe. In that sense, where did this disobedience come? It's a dynamism of the mind. It is the psychology. The psychology of the first psychology may be disobedience, and that's a thing which we see there. And their children, Cain and Abel, there were two children for them, and Bible says that the elder brother assassinated or killed the younger brother. You know the story. Everyone know the Cain killed Abel. And see, just 4 people in the whole universe, or just few people in the whole universe, and the first offsprings killing themselves. Where does this start? So this is all related to human psychology. And nowadays, we have not yet decided whether psychology is an art subject or whether it is a science subject. I went inside to know why is this left so. That was my question when I started studying these types of tools. One important thing I found that when we give any importance to psychological studies, we come into many solutions. So people of many business interests do not want this type of psychology or this type of methods or this type of tools to be famous and to be used by others. This is the most important, very shocking experience I had when I had discussions with many of these people around the globe. Why is this so? Why are we not concluding psychology as a science or as a art subject? What is happening to it? And even if you say in some universities they say it is a science, even in that science, many of these tools are being neglected. That's another important thing. They just strictly follow some proceedings, or they have psychology only after Sigmund Freud. They say that they don't have psychology before Sigmund Freud. That's the way they start. The first class would be about Sigmund Freud. This is one thing. So what I'm trying to make the point is, we people who are involved in interreligious dialogues, peace building, conflict resolution, conflict management, conflict transformation, etc., many of us are not aware about these tools like Enneagram. Enneagram is a wonderful tool which we can apply, and another one is MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. There is another tool known as NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and there are many to name, and one among which I choose today to talk is about transaction analysis, shortly known as TA. TA is transaction analysis. Transaction, we all know. Transaction is what we have in this world. Communication is what we build. Every religion is having a transaction in this world. Many times, every transaction of human being, every transaction of human being is can be analyzed. So what is behind this transaction is to be understood, and we can effectively use these techniques because training always leads to perfection. So either religious leaders or even religious leaders who are to be there have to be given a little bit of this subject in a sense, so that they can wonderfully work in their own religion, as well as they can also extend their fellowship towards the other religion. One important thing is when Eric Berne is supposed to be the founder of TA. He was a Canadian psychologist or so. So the things would be, I'm not going to share what is there in the internet. You can Google yourself transaction analysis and you get a number of tons of materials in that, but I'm not going to speak about its culture or its formation or founder or its development. What I'm trying to say, take two of the important tools which is being used in TA is, one is the PAC model of ego. PAC is, P stands for parent, A stands for adult, and C for the child. It represents child. So PAC model is a very good model which can give a very important solutions for the fundamentalistic theory, or the way the religion is many of the translation of the religion is not in a very positive. We all know that. Why we need interreligious dialogues? Because I'm into a lot of interreligious dialogues and interreligious harmony workshops, and organized by Muslims, organized by Christians, organized by Hindus. It's increasing for the last 3 to 4 years before Corona. I was 365 days dedicated for this sort of things. What I'm trying to say is, this was not the case few decades before, because everyone was in harmony. Everyone had the harmony. They need not have to have special sessions for harmony. These days, we need sessions, we need workshops, we need many things to promote interreligious harmony. Where did this go? What happened in the society very recently? Why we need these platforms to give interreligious importance? It's like one day I was called to inaugurate a hospital, and I denied I won't be, because what shall I pray there? Shall I pray for the profit of the management there, or should I pray for the healthful society, let the illness come down? What shall I pray there? So I was in confusion, and I said I shall not come to inaugurate a hospital. The same way, when I see the increasing of interreligious efforts, in a sense, it is also giving us a sense that something is going wrong in the society, that some intolerance things are being increasing in the society, that we need more medicines, more attention, super specialty attentions to the. So this is my concern here. So when coming to this PSC model of TA, P stands for, I said, it's for the parental ego. Parental ego is very much needed for every human being, as well as every mammals, or at least living beings who take care of their children for a short time at least. Even a hen, or a hen family, or a fowl family in our backyard shows this parental ego while taking care of their children. It's very much needed to bring up a next generation. So parents are not only the biological parents. Parents, when we say, it can be the religious leaders, as well as the elders or leaders. It can be anyone who is in charge of younger generation, who is mentoring and bringing up the generation. So that ego is very much inbuilt in our psychology. But many times it is a positive version of parental ego, and also a negative version of the parental ego. The positive version of parental ego is better known as natural parent, that is NP. So natural parenting is working with the criticizing parent. So there are some parents who always criticize, or very critical in their. So they give. So many times, these critical parents or criticizing parents, CP, are the problem in the society. So when a parent is behaving so, we tend to have children revolutionaries. We will have children in there, and they will be brought up as revolting children. They will be producing lot of problem in the future, in their own life as well as in the society. So every religion should know whether their high leaders or the elected leaders are having a natural parenting psychology or a criticizing parenting psychology. This is equally important in every institution, whether it is a home, whether it is between seniors and juniors, whether it is between teachers and the student, whether it is between the management and the employees. Everywhere, if the controlling figure, the parent figure, or the leading figure, or the one who is responsible for the training of the younger generation, if they tend to be negatively evolving into a critical parental side, criticizing parental side, the result would be negative. But if it is in a very positive way, it has to be a nurturing parent. So I just keep it aside now, and I'll come to the next ego. The next ego is adult ego. Adult ego is what is being recommended by TA. The TA say that every transaction need to be an adult transaction, irrespective of your age, caste, or anything. So I ask someone, what's the time now? The right way of giving an answer is, it is 11:04 or it's 11:04. It's 11:04 past 11 minutes. That's the right answer. But there can be many other answers. I can ask, why do you ask me? Don't you have a watch of your own, or why don't you carry a watch for your? That's not the answer for the question. Or sometimes you can just be playful and be silent, and you need not have to. You are meek, but you don't. You are not answering to the question. So every transaction, every question can be either in a very parental way of giving back to them, or can be a child form of not giving to them by real answers, being playful more than needed. But there is the best way is to give the answer. What's your name? My name is so and so. My name is Jose. My name is Geeta, or my name is Sharanya, or whatever it may be. So, what do you think my name would be? That can be another question. Question for a question. Question and answer for a question is, that is what we say adult transition. So many times when it comes to religious dynamism, it's not only that TA is not only for the parents, not only for the society, it's all for every group. It is for every group. Every group have this ego transition. When I meet a Christian and a Christian meet me, there are some, who is he? What is he doing? What is the difference? So when I ask, how are you? So, yes, yeah, I'm right, okay. So many times the transition itself is very, very, very important. There was some Hindu groups in India once tried to bring 4 Shankaracharyas together in a same stage. They want all the 4 important. There are 4 important Shankaracharyas according to Shankara tradition, and they are very powerful people. They have very political influence. They are the highest pontiff or highest like popes. The 4 popes of Hinduism, and in India at least we can equate them, but they are on the 4 corners of India. So there was a attempt to bring 4 of them into one place, or to have a meeting, or to in a one day, but it never happened, and it will never happen, because the ego or the transitions of this Shankaracharyas or whatever it may be. We know that many times in ecumenism, in church also the same things happening. How do they position? How will they sit in the dais? One have to be up, or who will be then up? Can they sit together in the same chairs? Very much not possible. In many places, the religious leaders are not really showing the adult transition. They are being showing the critical parenting, the criticizing parenting for sort of psychology. So adult transition is like more with concerns, with values, with less negative emotional attachment. These are all which we all know. It's very, very simple. When you hear this, you can understand that how we should behave and how we should interact, how the transition should be is being. That's the adult ego which we need to have. Giving and forgiving and receiving and thanking, everything comes in this platform or this sort of ego. Next would be the child ego. Child ego is also a very important things we play, because we are all one child. We were all children once. We were all we have inherited a sort of maladapted childhood behavior in a way. Even now, when we are in a situation, we tend to be a child many times. It's from the child psychology we offend, we give a lot of misunderstanding come, the way we get misleaded, because a child is not with much understanding and it's not much knowledge. Child is not expected to have much knowledge. So it's like many of the fightings, many of the quarrels which we had in the past is in the childhood. We have quarreled with our parents, we have quarreled with our siblings, we have quarreled with our classmates, we have quarreled with our other friends. So these quarreling sessions get little decreased when we become adults. But somewhere in the psychology of religion, still this sort of giving and exchanging sort of childish, quarrelsome nature, the maladapted childhoodness is still there. This is one of the main reasons of a hate speech. You all remember when you are a child, when somebody hates you, you have a innate psychology, or you have a potentiality to give back in the same way. I remember when I was studying in a college, no, in a school, when I was in the fourth standard. There was some in my mother tongue. There are some songs or few lines of the songs which abuses Jesus Christ. So the other than Christians, they used to mock the Christian children by singing this. They also have other sort of jargons or things to be sung during this to be given back. So this hate giving things was exchanged for a long time in our childhood days, and silently I was watching all these things, and I know all the songs big too, because it was a common thing happening in our childhood. Maybe it is different in your childhood, but still things, when we were criticized, we have a tendency to give back. And the way to the counter speech here, this is where Father Jose also was telling about counter speech. Counter speech is have to be given not in a child psychology. It's not from the child ego we have to give back or to answer it. That's what it is important. That's what I think it is important. So, yeah. Something from no, can I continue?
Yeah, actually the time is limited, Swamiji.
Yes,
so,
yes, I know. Can I take another 3 more minutes to consolidate?
Sure.
Yes. So what I'm trying to give is there are some psychodynamic tools which we say. So this can also be included in our discussions. So many times I have tried this, and I'm also the president of CRL. CRL is Conference of Religious Leaders. So the first question they asked me when we formed such a conference, we have Bishop Conference of India and CBCI and all things, but there is no something known as Religious Leaders Conference. So they were very afraid. How do we transit? How do we come together? And for that thing, I just gave them some TA classes for 1 or 2 weeks. Actually, it took 1 or 2 weeks, and they all came together after that. They could know how to transact, how the transaction should be done. So that was a wonderful experience. They got a very confidence to talk to their brother fellows or from the fellows from the other religion. They were able to do that. So that's a very success story, which at least I can call from my own omnistic background. I am an omnist, as I told that I draw goodness from all religious sectors and every good thing. So that's what we are doing here. And I think it's a time for me to say goodbye, but I will be moving also from the session because I am late for another session. I need to travel a little, but I will be looking into the mobile, of course, from the car also I can do that. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to present the importance of psychology and importance of psychodynamic tools in interreligious dialogues and conflict management, as well as countering hate speech programs and everything. Let us discuss more when we have a much more time given. Thank you for everything. Thank you. I am also part of KAICIT, and I may not have to thank everyone, but I have to thank everyone for giving such a wonderful opportunity, and also thank for everyone, my fellows who really did it in a wonderful way. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Swamiji, just stay here for a few minutes because we are going to have a question answer session for the online.
Okay,
Just
sure,
stay
sure.
for some more time.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Swami Atmadas ji, for this wonderful insights. And actually, we came to know so many facts because we never thought like this. But definitely, I think we need one day entirely to learn something on this psychometric systems and how we can actually able to access those psychometric sessions in the conflict management. So I'm really, really thankful, and it's my honor to listen you. Thank you so much. Now I'm moving to the next very honorable guest for today, and I'm really, really privileged to have him with us. He is none other than our esteemed KAICIT fellow, another KAICIT fellow, Professor K.M. Baharul Islam. He is a chair, Center for Public Policy and Government at the Indian Institute of Management, IIM Kashipur, and a visiting professor at London School of Economics. He has served as the Dean of the Institute. He also taught various universities in Asia and Africa and served with UNESCO, UNECA, and UNESCAP. He is a Fellow of Royal Asiatic Society and a KAICIT Fellow 2016 cohort. I welcome you, sir, for this opportunity in the hybrid session. So please, the mic is yours, sir. I'm not going to take much time of yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swati. It was a wonderful session listening to our esteemed speakers, Brother Jose and our own Swami Atmadas. But at this point of time, we'll see that we are passing through a very difficult time, challenging time in terms of personal dynamics of social psychology, what Swami Atmadas has just referred to. I'll just add a very ground realities of qualitative research which we are doing at LSE on hate speech itself, on social media and other platforms. And I would like to highlight just what are the causation or what is happening on the ground, and why individuals who are apparently very normal, family life, live in a society with all other human emotions, they survive. But why on social media there's suddenly pent up, some hate speech, or in fact more than hate speech, it is the amplifying the hate speech. Someone says something against someone, and they amplify it more and more. One of the things which we are talking about nowadays is the social catharsis. The term came from psychology, again from the art of drama, where catharsis happens when we see something, a pent-up emotions against evil, and we see on the stage the Ravan is getting defeated. And so my hate and my anger against evil, as personified as Ravan on the stage or any other villain on the stage and a cinema on the screen, we feel happy that it is defeated. In real life, you see the more ordinary example from Indian context is that when people clap when someone, the hero, is beating up a minister. In real life, you cannot go near a minister. The road will be closed 1 kilometer ahead of you. But in the cinema, in a dark room, you can really see a very powerful minister and the villain in this film. He's getting beaten up right, left, and center by the hero. And so I come out, with that kind of mental catharsis that at the end of the day, the bad or the evil or the villain is defeated. Now, what happened in modern society now is that we have a number of complexities arising. We have pent up anger against system, against society, against family members, against colleagues. You step out of your home, you get into a conflict. Even in home, you might not even save yourself from any conflict. Your neighbor will make some noise, you have to tolerate. If you ring his bell and say, lower your down, you get into a conflict in that society. Either you are a bad person, you don't enjoy music and you are making noises, or you get into driving anything, anywhere. You step out of your home, you get into a conflict. Now, what do we do? Normally, earlier days, we had a more different ways of doing that. Our religiosity is one big shock absorber. Something happens wrongly, we leave it to God, that okay, he will take care of it. Somebody has done. Today we have that pent of one is that the center cannot hold, the T.S. Eliot's famous line, that the religiosity is depending on a divine provision, that is reducing, number one. Number two, our social cycle is our WhatsApp. We're sitting with, when we're talking to the friends, many of our pent up feelings went on because we have a grandma at home. On her shoulder, we cry, and many of our pent up anger goes off. That is not happening. Friends are not there, very limited friends are there. And because of the complex relationship today, you really cannot share your pent up anger with your friends. He might use it later on against you. So you don't open up, you keep on pressing yourself, keep on your hate and anger into yours. And one of the side effect of this is what we see in social media. So I'm not getting a job. So if I'm not getting a job, because it is not that I'm a Muslim, because most of the jobs I have got because the experts were all non-Muslims. You see, getting a job in India or even in abroad, hardly 1% of my selectors were Muslims. But in India, in a hate kind of scenario, if I cannot extinguish this, so my hate goes on to somebody that these are the people who are oppressing me. So I see a news, somebody is beaten up, mob lynching is happening somewhere in part of India. Immediately my pent up anger goes against everybody belonging to the religion. So Swati is friendly with me, but inside she might be like this. Why I am doing so? Because I don't want to look among ourselves. One mob lynching. If you count, if there is a system on digital platform or some kind of digital connectivity, Muslims beat 100 times more Muslims than one mob lynching. That much lynching every Friday we do. But that is not highlighted. When it is done by Swati, it pents up anger. But if cousins are beating cousins, fathers are beating sons, sons are beating mothers, which religion is free of that? Christians are killing Christians. But when someone else does it, my entire feeling is. And if I'm a Muslim, I feel I'm oppressed. If I'm a Hindu, I feel, oh, 800 years. So Mughal aye the, and they have started this, and these are the. For God's sake, my structure does not show anything about Mughal. None of my great ancestral grandfathers were from Mughal, and Mughals are very high, stature built people. But someone will look at me 5.6 inches and will say, ah, Mughlon ke aulad or Babur ke aulad. But who is Babur for that matter? Babur is that mental villain on which I want to put my anger on. Because I'm not getting job, my boss is killing me, my wife is fighting with me, my friends are cheating me. Whatever is happening in my life, I want some villain to put it on. So it is the Babur. He came from somewhere in Kazakhstan and ruled India for 600 years and made this Taj Mahal or something like this. Every day I have to put it on that. So hate speech basically is to look inside. If we look inside, we'll see that there are a lot of anger, a lot of patience which are happening. We must have to channel it out. If I believe in religiosity, if I'm a religious person, I go to my God, and God says in Allah, in Quran says that if I have wanted, I would have made you all the same, all Muslim, all Christian, all Hindus. Something like this. I did not make you one. I made you in different groups so that you identify yourself. So if God is owning me as Christian as a group, Hindus as a group, Buddhist as a group, just as an identity marker, there is no distinction in front of God. So if I go back to my Quran, I find peace. If I go back to my religion, I find peace. If I am not a religious person, if I'm an atheist or something, the elemental human basic logic of right and wrong, that I can find peace with. So hate speech basically we talk about whenever we see is basically is to look inside, and we find a way of better catharsis. Shakespearean drama did this for a long time. Unfortunately, today again the cinema as a pure form of art or aesthetics or drama is listening. How many of us we go to those Twitter hate speech people? Have they even stepped into a theater, looked into the human emotions painting up? Have they seen the Ram Lila for that matter? One of the elemental, watch Ramayana, Mahabharata. All these are elemental catharsis of saying that our hate or anger or the challenges we face in life, how to overcome that. Look at this as a kind of more of an universal nature. Before I point my finger into somebody hating me, how much hate I generate within my system, that we have to find it out. Only then perhaps the hate which we see all around will reduce. So we need to interact more and bring in more. Unfortunately, this is one of the least priorities in our education system today. Our priority is to repay the educational loan, and that's why you need a job. And when job and money and as Professor Chomsky says, that it is the new bondage we have in our classrooms. And that produces a number of so-called educated, otherwise normal people, but no way to, purge their heart of the hate and anger. A genuine way of doing that. And that's why that anger goes into hate speech. And we see all those kind of things which are completely nonsensical, but somehow it attracts some people's mind. Let's hope that groups like this and interaction like this will spread the message of love and honor, respect for each other more. And it was a wonderful interaction with the speakers today. A Saturday morning worth spending on this. Thank you very much.
Really a worth spending time with listening to these wonderful speakers. Thank you so much. My heartfelt gratitude to all the speakers present today, offline, online, and the participants who are traveling in this pollutions and in this winter. Thank you so much to attend offline also. We are sitting in a room, but you traveled a lot. So thank you so much, first of all. And thank you so much, Professor Baharul sir, Father Jose and Swami Atmadas ji for this wonderful insights and the wonderful weekend we are about to start and have a food to thought. So I'm really honored to moderate the online session today. And I open the forum to discuss something, give us some new ideas so that we can keep forward as a KFN fellow, and in our next segment we can think about it. We can draft a proposal for the futuristic analysis, how to draw attention to international forums like that. KFN and other organizations have been interested, so give us some suggestions also. Thank you so much. Energy, up to you.
Yeah, I just thought we would like to have any questions from the online speakers. If anybody has any query or would like to discuss. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. It was really a privilege to be part of today's session, especially listening to esteemed speakers, Swami Atmadas, Professor Baharul Islam, and Father Jose. There's one question that I wanted to ask Swami Atmadas. I was listening to your transnational analysis, and it's quite intriguing. Probably I'm exposed to it for the first time. You talked about natural parenting and critic parenting. So, something like it starts at home, and that's how a child grows up, gets conditioned, and becomes a quarrelsome personality in the society. My question is, I was just thinking about it. Let's say a child grows and becomes a quarrelsome personality, and he's, sort of one of the main proponent of hate speeches. What does transactional analysis talk about undoing that? I mean, when a person becomes a quarrelsome personality, there's something like we talk about conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind. Now, if that becomes a part of the personality and the person is conditioned, what does your analysis say that how do we undo that? How does he go back to his nature, his or her nature?
Yes, very nice question, of course, and that's a very practical question. That's what we needed. TA really gives you a program which says that you can unlearn things. It is your life script, it's your life story, which the script is being already given in you, or it is imbibed in you at your childhood. So we should have new stories. We should have better stories. We have all heard the story of the turtle and the tortoise and the hare and the tortoise, where every time hare is being declared as a failure and the tortoise is always declared as the that's the story which we have. The same way, there are some stories which make us quarrelsome or negative to the society, or making us negative, giving transactions. The one of the sessions we do is a storytelling session. We build more stories to this negative part of the story. If the story of your influence is not a positive end, let us have a new story for that. There are D part for the story, and is also C part for the stories. You all know in the management school we come to the C part and say that hair should not be scandalized, or C, or the tortoise also have to have his own place. So there are many things we have to do that. There are n number of possibilities in TA to have a back down, or to have a better version of ourselves. Of course, this is a very important question you ask, and the time constraint is there. I know that, so I'm just giving you. There is very hopeful thing where you can learn how your transitions can be good in the future, or how to have a adult transition in every situation. That can be trained. Of course, it can be trained. Thank you.
One suggestion that I wanted, thank you, Swami Atmada, thank you so much. Kinuji, one suggestion that I wanted to, because I was listening to Professor Baharul Islam, and he made very relevant point in terms of our personal failure, and we attribute it to religion. What he was highlighting, very important point. And like I am a member of Center for Peace and Spirituality. My name is Dr. Rajat Malhotra, and we do a lot of informal sessions in that regard. But something that struck me, which we were discussing with Kinuji and Dr. Kanchan, and she made a very relevant point that at an elementary education level, we should make some modules for children to understand the other religion, virtues of the other religion, like patience, solidarity, living together, some one of the pillar that Father Joe spoke about. If that happens at a elementary level, at a school level, that's like natural parenting that's happening at a school level, and a child grows to be a responsible student. So maybe if we can propose this to the ministry, I think it will be very, very important thing, and the students will become like contributing citizens in the global civil society. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Malhotra, I would like to tell you one thing, that we recently, last year only, we tried an interreligious dialogue in schools. Especially, that was an experiment we made not only in India, but we made it in 4 other cities. That was in Nigeria, it was in Vienna, and in Finland. So we tried this. So one thing is, of course, going through the government, going to the ministry. But it's not always that we go to the ministry. There are a lot of things that we can do on our own. So making the children understand each other. So we are trying, but it was very difficult, because usually parents in India, they're a little possessive. Okay, why are you going for interreligious dialogue? But that is something we can do on our own also. That interreligious dialogue within the children, so that they understand each other's religion. So that is something, of course, that is a difficult task, but this is something we can do on our own. And we are trying it. We tried it. And maybe we go for it again next year or something. Yeah.
add one thing to this because the way Kiran said कि mostly like अभी हमने latest एक news देखी होगी इंडिया में भी कि कहीं यूपी में there was a school जहाँ पे उसको बच्चों को उन्होंने कुछ मुस्लिम प्लेयर करवा दी and that teacher he went behind the bars. So these are the things which are only taken care if these are the policy recommendation given to the government, because if we are doing it on a smaller scale, these kind of issues will erupt. So this is a very good suggestion. We will definitely keep that in mind and proceed over for that. Thank you so much.
I was just going to say that it's very important that we teach the tenets of the religion, because then they become sensitive towards the other person's religion. And also with this we can start also removing the confusions if there are some misinterpretations or some confusions on the broad framework, not going into the nitty-gritties, but that would, the person would say, I know about it, please don't try to influence me. That is where the conditioning will start, not to take things on hearsay. And when you know about the religion, you are confident. But if you don't know about the religion, anybody can say whatever they want to. So that is what, and also what she rightly pointed out, Dr. Chandan said, that if it comes from the government, then it becomes mandatory. Because if it doesn't come, then it becomes an option, and there are going to be different schools of thoughts about it. But if it's enforced, then definitely it's going to be there.
Thank you so much. I think any other questions?
Any other insights or questions or any other online questions that anybody would want
We
to?
have some participants online as well. So if anybody is interested or to give some observations and reflections, they are most welcome. Otherwise, we are heading towards the end of the session because there are counterparts from the Western country. She is getting late.
That's what I was going to say,
Yeah.
because when we started this initiative, Dr. Kanchan was here in India, and she just moved to Canada in, I think, November or something, and it was
What?
really difficult for us keeping the time gap mind, but still she kept to all her commitments. So we're really thankful for Dr.
Thank you.
Swati
Thank
for
you
that.
so much.
And
Thank
so I
you.
suppose we close the online session and we move
Yeah.
ahead for tea, and then we will have the offline session. Thank you.
You
Thank
have to have
Thank
your
you
tea
so
at your place.
much.
Father Jose
Thank
Bahar
you
sir,
so
आपकी
much.
tea due है. And Swami ji,
Excellent. Okay. Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you very
wonderful
much.
having you
Have
all.
have a wonderful day, all of you, and have a wonderful,
Thank
fruitful
you.
discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.